Hey there, it's 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. We all know what that means. Another riveting episode of Behind Breaking Bond. What were you saying about today?
I said, what a great way to close out the month.
There you go.
This is it, the last day of April, and boy, we got some stuff to talk about.
For the two people that don't know who you are, introduce yourself.
I am Mr. Anonymous.
Right.
Call 7. Andy Kahn, Director of Victim Services.
How you been doing?
Last week was crazy because it was National Crime Victims' Rights Week. We were back at City Hall for the first time in, I'll be nice, years.
Wow.
So it was nice to get all the different groups and be recognized for what they do on behalf of people who are victims of violent crime. Then I was in Austin Sunday for the Texas Peace Officers Memorial Ceremony. That's the first time I've actually gone to that, I'm sure. And that was just really touching.
And this is the first time I missed it in probably 10 years. Yeah.
Introduce yourself, Doug Griffith.
Doug Griffith, the president of the Houston Police Officers Union. I'm here for the wrong reason. I thought we were on Shark Tank. I thought Mr. Wonderful
Right.
Hey, and
He's going to pitch coffee.
I can do this now because I don't think the New York Times is, going to come after us.
We'll
Maybe
see.
I'm wrong. But I got just sent another batch of no bond coffee. And basically the coffee roaster, which will remain anonymous, but it's King Har's Imperial Coffees, which is my family coffee roasting company in Florida, sent me this. It says, thank you to all Crime Stoppers for keeping them behind bars. Bail rejected, coffee accepted. Lock
I
them up.
like that. Bail rejected, coffee accepted.
So I'm sorry if the New York Times, the last time they decided they actually thought there is such a thing as no bond coffee. And
There's not?
They sent my brother an email. My brother goes, Andy, I got a call from a New York Times reporting wanting to know how much you're getting for no bond coffee.
Well, like thousands and thousands of dollars, right?
Every time there's a sale to change, kind of like.
And I'm over here still waiting on my Monster sponsor.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
Come on.
You need to hold it up more or
I
something.
know, I guess,
right?
hey.
Hey, let's talk about yesterday. What an awful, tragic day for police officers.
Yeah. Charlotte, North Carolina, that was a horrific ending to a violent confrontation. It's bad enough that the original suspect engaged law enforcement, but then once he was down and they went to render first aid to him, they came upon fire again. They came under fire again, and a total of 4 killed and 4 more injured.
Wow.
And our prayers are out to the department, to the federal marshals, because 3 of the federal marshals were killed as well. And it's just a horrible, tragic incident, and one that we're seeing play out more and more across the country. Those officers were flat out ambushed when they tried to assist the suspect that they were forced to engage.
We've talked about this before, just with the whole idea of so many people out on multiple bonds, and they get pulled over or whatever, and all of a sudden they're thinking, well, I'm not going to go back to jail, or I'm not going to prison, and then they open fire.
Well, just take a look at Harris County alone. In April, we had, I believe, 5 officer-involved shootings. And out of those 5, 4, I'm sorry, I may have been 6. But 4 of those were, our officers were fired upon first. And, you start looking across the country and you're seeing more and more that officers are hesitating and we're being fired upon before we're able to take action. And that scares me, because we can't be hesitant in taking action, but nobody wants to be the poster child for a shooting that people are going to think are questionable.
Right.
So you see more and more of our troops will hold off until they're fired upon. And I hate to see that. I don't want to see that. We just had an article this week about one of our officers that's been involved in 4 shootings. Well, he's in a highly proactive unit that goes after violent offenders. Well, violent offenders have guns. One of them was one that there was a hostage involved, and the guy admitted he was going to kill her, telling her, I'm going to take you out to the woods and kill you. And she's able to get help there, and they engaged the guy.
Well, if you're part of some sort of a fugitive task force or whatever, of course the odds are going to be more likely that you're going to use your weapon, right? If you're or as opposed to being a patrol officer, right?
Correct.
But you can see how you could spin that.
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
right.
People have a narrative. They're going to say, officer already had 4 shootings, right?
Right.
You know, here's, you know, what's going on.
Doesn't matter the
Right.
circumstance, doesn't matter
Right,
that he
right.
fired
It's-
that 4
right, that's
times,
the
that he
headline
responded
that's
4
going-
times.
Right, that's the
And,
headline.
and when you start looking at Harris County and the violent offenders that we still have out on bond, again, we have over 900 that are on bond or wanted for murder or capital murder. That's people terrorizing our community today. And we're going to see them over and over again, just like we do.
And again,
sadly-
that's something that, what, 10 years ago,
Unheard
10,
of.
12 years ago, right?
Unheard of.
If you would have said that to me then, I'd be, what are you trying, what's
Yeah,
in that monster?
Exactly. No, it's sadly, we're in a different state of affairs in the entire country, actually, because you take a look around, it's not just Houston.
It's not.
It's Dallas, Austin. I mean, look, Austin stopped responding to about half the calls we dispatched to because they don't have enough officers. We are quickly getting that way. You know, again, we're down over 2,000 just to comply with our current policies.
And you have to compete with every other law
Absolutely.
enforcement entity who, quite frankly, if you're looking to be an officer and you want, you know, you don't want to get in, you know, street fire or whatever, you're going to go to a little and make more, probably.
Well, you got to think about this. We have 5,000 officers. You go to some smaller agency where there's anywhere from, and understand there's, I want to say 2,800 law enforcement agencies in the state of Texas. Most, 80% of those are 20 officers or less. So you got all these little small towns and they obviously support their law enforcement. But even an agency with 300 people, Pasadena, Pearland, they can give their people a $10,000 a year raise and it doesn't bust the budget. For us, that's millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
So it is harder for us to recruit and retain officers when we're paying them lower than these smaller agencies.
Not only retaining them, but ballpark figure, how many of them are actually retirement eligible?
Oh yeah, we probably have 20% of the department retirement eligible.
Yeah.
And we lose approximately 250 years to retirement.
And you can't just,
We can't-
throw someone in and say, here you go.
Yeah.
It takes years and
Absolutely.
years to build
Absolutely.
that street savvy experience and
Right.
knowing what you do. You can't just graduate people and say, well, we're replacing you.
Yep.
That you can't.
And you want people that want to be police officers for the right reason.
Right.
You know, you go into it not for the money, but you have a real desire to help people, to be there in an emergency, to help people when they need help.
Well, I can only speak for myself, but I've wanted to do this job since I was 12 years old. That's all I ever wanted to do. And I studied my tail off. I didn't even go to a real college. I went to a junior college. I mean, it's a real college to me.
Yeah.
Got my associate's degree, and the day I turned 21, I was knocking on the door.
Yeah.
It was a calling for me. It was a passion. I love it. I still love it today. If I could be in the middle of something today, I'm in the middle of it.
Right.
That's just, it's in you. Some of these guys coming out today look at it, oh, I just need a job.
Right.
And they come on the job, and that's why we have people that get in trouble. Because sometimes for them, it's just a job, and they don't have the same passion for it. And it's really hard from the older officer standpoint, because you want to take those people under your wing and mentor them and teach them. And some you can't, especially the former military guys. Some of our best officers are former military.
I bet.
They don't even have an education. They went to the military and come here, and
Yeah.
they're some of the best officers. And, you know, you try to mentor those people to make them better. But nowadays it's all about, oh, next level, next level, next level, next level. And if you've only been 15 years on and you're a commander or, you know, higher, you sit there and go, how much experience did you actually get on the streets?
Right.
You know, and not that they're not good, just you have to have some of that gruff from being out there every day, seeing it, dealing with it, and knowing what to do in any particular situation. You have to be ready for just about anything.
Oh, yeah. It has to be one of the most difficult jobs to do because you don't know what to expect from day to day. You don't know who you're going to come in contact with, and you don't know who wants to harm you or do something to you just because you're a policeman.
And now we're second guessed with everything we do on a body cam.
Right.
I mean, those things are running around the clock now.
Yeah.
And so everything you do is on you can be micromanaged by people that never really did the job.
Right.
And there's people out there that are looking for
Oh,
anything.
absolutely.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Any
That
little
they
thing.
can call a press conference.
Right.
You know, if you push somebody the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, could you imagine
Well,
if,
we see it right now at UT. What's going on there with
Yeah.
the clashes? And one of the law enforcement officers pulled a guy back and he fell. And the officer fell with him. It was a media guy. And people are just crushing these off. Oh, see, they're trying to take out the media. No. But sometimes they get in the way and we have to move them as well.
Right.
It's nothing personal. It's when you have a skirmish line and you've got to move people,
Yeah.
there's a certain way you got to do it. And people get in the way, they get pulled in.
oh,
It's
I've
just,
been on
you know,
scenes before, and I'm sure Chandler has too, where it's like all of a sudden that they're moving the crime scene tape, and it's like, and they'll tell you, you know, you gotta move, and you can't stand there and wait 10 minutes to move. When they say move, they expect you to move.
Well, you'd be in the middle of a hot scene and not
That's
even know it.
Right,
Make
yeah.
it something, this is what people don't understand. You may have a scene that you think's all calm. There could have been somebody hiding there they didn't know because
Right.
they haven't been in
Well,
the house.
a lot of times
or
too, when
something else.
you're so, and it's frustrating for us because you're so far that you don't even really see anything. Well, that's because they're worried about us getting shot or hurt, or because, yeah, you want to be right on top of a SWAT scene.
Yeah, well,
And
we've
we
been
had
on,
several SWAT scenes in
Oh,
the
absolutely.
last week.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that was actually taken into custody a few days ago is on probation for robbery. And evidently, he had over 70 text messages to his probation officer where he was threatening to cook and eat him.
Okay.
And he was going to dismember, bury him, stab him. But he said, you know, he had already had sauces and seasoning
yes.
to cook his probation officer. And I don't know, maybe I was just kind of curious what kind of seasoning and sauce. I don't know, I don't know. You grew up on
It
the
depends
north.
on the
maybe-
age. It depends
Right.
on the
So
age.
I'm looking
whether,
at
you know,
this going,
it's tough.
you know,
You need extra seasoning.
can you go interview him and ask him?
I will
about
do that.
You know, what-
A crazy one was it yesterday, the day before, the naked guy? Like this guy is completely naked, running around the neighborhood. And okay,
And he has on his
granted,
head.
he had there was mental issues there, but that guy, don't you think he was also on drugs?
No doubt.
Anytime these people are completely naked, they're on meth or something, right? It's like they
meth
get,
or PCP.
yeah,
Because that drug specifically elevates the body temperature and you get hot.
they're
you
real
get
hot and they
active,
take all their clothes off.
Absolutely. And, you know, some of the media spun that and it really just agitated the fire out of me because they make it out like, oh, officers tasered man and he dies. Or, you know, that they were, nothing about they were forced to fight this guy
Right.
and used a taser as an alternative to deadly force.
And couldn't it be the drugs or the combination of tasering somebody that's all high on?
Well,
PCP or
I
whatever?
can promise you the taser had nothing to do with it. The taser has absolutely no effect on the heart.
Right.
Okay, the drugs have a big effect on the
Right.
heart. And so when you start looking at it, they have what they call excited delirium, which is people that are on drugs, they get so high that they can't, not only can they not control their emotions and functions, but their body starts to shut down internally. And that's what I believe happened here. He had excited delirium. They said he's picking up drugs, licking them off the ground, all this other stuff.
It's crazy.
And, you know, they tried to take him into custody. They called HFD before they even went in and grabbed him. They were on the scene. Everything was done by the book, but yet some media outlets portrayed it as, oh, well, they just did this to be mean and killed him.
I'm just
You know,
having
and
a hard
it's
time
annoying.
visualizing some of your officers trying to take this naked guy down. And all I keep thinking is that scene in Borat. That's all I keep. I'm sorry, but that's
Why'd
just
you have
coming.
to go there?
I mean, that's just coming into my mind right now. That's got to be a strange.
But I can tell you from someone who's had to fight people like that, they're incredibly strong.
I bet.
Incredibly.
Because of the drugs, right?
They feel absolutely no pain. Phencyclidine, PCP.
Yeah.
I dealt with that a lot in the Sunnyside area where I worked. And every time you knew, as soon as the call come in, they're naked guy. all right, go ahead and send me a couple more units because we're gonna need several.
Yeah.
And those guys were just incredibly strong, felt absolutely no pain. And it is extremely hard to grab a hold of a naked person
I
when
bet.
they're all sweaty and
There
slick.
it is.
And,
If you
you
can
know,
insert that scene,
it's-
Chandler.
Oh my gosh,
You,
it's not fun. I'll tell you that. It's not fun at all.
so
Hey,
what, I know what, I want to, we're going to talk about what happened last week, because that's
Yes.
the story that keeps on giving, right?
last week, the breaking bond was about Rocky
That's his real name, Rocky. How do you pronounce
Annis.
it? Yeah,
Cool,
good.
cool.
Pronounce this.
Right? Rocky Annis was charged with violating a protective order, right?
This was no ordinary protective order. This was
No.
a lifetime protective order. He has multiple convictions in Harris County, Galveston County, and Brazoria County. He's a registered sex offender. He's been locked up in county jail since April of 21,
He had a $120,000 bond that he couldn't make.
and he sent over 100 letters to the judge.
Can you believe that?
Very
Wrote letters to the judge.
Over 100 correspondence there. None of them were legible. I mean, he also contacted one of his former victims. I don't know how he got a hold of her number.
From jail.
I looked at her phone. There's over 100 phone calls made to her from jail. So he's finally, they declare him incompetent in August. They sent him to a mental health facility here. And then miraculously, he's cured, or he's restored to competency.
In about what, 7-8 months,
Yeah,
right?
7-8 months. All of a sudden, he's restored to competency. And you think, okay, you're going to go back to Harris County Jail pending trial.
Right.
No, but they gave him a 120,000 PR bond.
Which means he walked out.
So
Yeah,
they gave him
don't
a
pay
bond,
anything.
and they put him in a boarding home, an assisted living facility, which we discovered now there's 61 in unincorporated Harris
Yes.
County. And so now he's in this living facility. So I go and check the sex offender registry. Sure enough, one of his roommates
Is also a.
was a 5-time convicted sex offender. And the actual documents, he was charged here with failure to register. They dismissed it because he got confused where to go. And it says, and it actually says in the documents, defendant has severe mental issues.
Yeah.
So that's his roommate. So you take a drive to one of the great street names of all. Can we say the street name?
Go ahead.
Hack'em-Attack.
Hack'em-Attack. That's fun to say. Hack'em-Attack.
Hack'em-Attack. So you go out there and I'll let you pick up.
I knock on the door like I usually do. Hello, Rocky. And so I'm talking to Rocky.
He answers.
Yeah, someone else
So-
came to the door and
oh,
said,
he
it's
got
Rocky.
him?
Yeah, so Rocky,
Okay.
and Rocky's under house arrest. We had to be there, right? So, and Rocky's not making a whole lot of sense. I mean, he's not. And so I'm, explaining to him what's going on. Does he want to say anything? And he kind of blames the victim at one point, but like a lot of people, hey, do you have a car? And I get it. I come knocking on your door and you're kind of hearing TV reporter and then, well, what's your name and what station? And so I give Rocky a card that has my cell phone on it. So we go across the street and we talk to this neighbor lady. And my cell phone's in the news vehicle. So we're away from the vehicle, maybe 12, 14 minutes. I look at my phone. Rocky has called me 8 times and leaves 4 messages.
You've been Rocky-ized. You are now.
And it was like just,
So he called again.
none of it
and
made
he
sense.
kept calling.
And then he called again and I told him, I said, hey, dude, you cannot do this. You cannot just repeatedly call me. And so I blocked this number so I couldn't call anymore. But if I wouldn't have done that, he would have called me over and over and over again. I mean, and just talking to the guy, I'm thinking, granted, I am no medical expert, psychiatrist or anything, but when somebody's crazy when you're talking to them. And I'm just thinking, how did he ever get out?
The neighbor was telling you some interesting things, though, that you had on.
Oh yeah, she's talking about how they had a woman there for a while, and whenever they would sort of start wandering around or leaving the house, she'd call them back. And I guess they'd listen to her. And, they would get back in the house. Well, the neighbor lady said that she had left. She's gone, and that there was no one there. And these people would kind of just wander around the neighborhood. There was a little, probably 2 blocks away, there was one of these little neighborhood parks, like with a swing set and all that. And they would go there and hang out.
See, this is part of the issue I have, though. When you start talking about mental health and mental illness, there's so many people out there that have this issue, and we don't know what to do with them.
Right.
And so we are tasked with going and having to deal with them on a regular basis. Years and years ago, the state of Texas had homes for folks like this. And, right now, the state has billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. Let's open some of these facilities and start getting people the help they need.
Right.
And start putting them where they belong, away from the general public.
And that's
Because
that's what we were saying. This is not fair for him.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not fair
No,
for the
it's
neighbors.
not. No,
It's not fair for anybody in
Right.
that neighborhood.
Right. And it's not, obviously, it is not illegal to have a mental illness.
Absolutely.
A lot of people have mental illnesses and they get treated for it and they go on to have productive lives. But it's when your mental illness, when you cross the line and you start, self-medicate, or
It's the honor
when you start
system.
breaking the
Right.
law, that's when it becomes like this guy harassing this woman. It was crazy.
You
what-
found out in a matter of minutes.
Right, what it's like,
For this
yeah.
guy to hand, you said, and you also, one of the things I noted, she said they had the garage door open one time.
Right, and you could see all these mattresses, and so they knew something was going on.
Well, you got to understand, a lot of these homes like this are also nothing more than flop houses, and people will get federal money, state money to house. So the more people they pack into one of these houses,
Right.
the more money they get.
And some of the kind of shady ones will do
Oh,
it to where
absolutely.
they'll take the person's
Absolutely.
Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security,
They
disability
get
check.
rich off mentally ill.
The
Right.
person
And that-
who.
that should
who
be a
owns-
prominent
The
subject.
person that owns this company, Brightway, they have 8 facilities,
Yeah.
and he lives in a mansion in Champions Forest.
And this is the thing too, but now Harris County is the sheriff's office that gives permits to these boarding homes. And they do, you can go on a website and see where every single one of them is located. But nobody is going to come knocking on your door to say, hey, 2 doors down, is a boarding home and we have this person and that person. No one's going to tell you. You got to find out on your own.
And what kind of inspections are being done? That's what I like to know.
Right.
Because I don't understand, because I've been into enough of these as an officer to know. You go walking in there and there's pallets everywhere. There's drugs everywhere.
Right.
There's people everywhere. And they're like, oh yeah, so-and-so runs this house, it's ours. And nothing's ever done about it.
Well, the Harris County Fire Marshal's office does part of the permitting, but it's the standard, make sure you got fire alarms and extinguishers and all that. But I'm sure they don't have the manpower to go back every 6 months or year and check these places out.
Hey, for those that can't see this, Chandler Cracker was doing this little signal right here.
What does that
Do
mean?
you know what that signal means? That means
Shut
we have to
up.
wrap. So if you ever see somebody do this, like I catch that, we have to wrap things up. But we have a really interesting segment tonight
We
that
do.
calls a lot of attention to a lot of troubling issues.
Yeah, and it's kind of a look at what happens when someone is on parole. They pick up a new criminal charge and they're also on bond. They're on bond and on parole simultaneously. We have, for the second time in about a 6-month period,
Yep.
we found an instance like that where the defendant went on to allegedly kill someone.
Yes.
Do we have any questions?
I don't think we have time for questions.
It's up to our producer here. Hold on, we've
Do we
unwrapped that.
have a
We're going
question,
back in
Chandler?
time.
But
No, yeah,
Back
not really
in time.
questions, just comments for sure. Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for
See you tonight.
watching. We appreciate it. Be sure to watch tonight's Breaking Bond, Fox 26 News at 9. Be kind to yourself and everyone else. Bye.